Hey, good morning, fourth graders. It is Thursday, April 16th. We're going to call this part 2 of lesson 713, displaying insect data. Yesterday we worked on measuring all of these. You should have this done from yesterday. And then you should have worked with me to make this line plot. And I know it's kind of small, but we need the line plot that is on page 266 to be able to answer these questions on 267. Now I know that up at the top here it asks all these questions about your favorite insects and stuff like that. If you want to do that on your own, that's fine. We're going to start working at number 2, where the answer, like here, you might have a different insect, or you might have picked different insects than other students. So we're going to start at 2, where it gives us specific questions. So you're going to have to follow along. I'm going to do my best to help you. This is number 2. It says, how many insects are 1 6/8 inches long? So take a look over at the line plot and find 1 6/8 and how many insects were that long. And also, how many insects were 7/8 inches long? So let's take a look at that, fill those in. For the first blank, how many were 1 6/8 inches long? If I go over here, I can see that there are 1, 2, 3 X's there. So 3 insects were 1 6/8 inches long. The second one was 7/8 of an inch. And when you look at the 7/8 of an inch, we had 2 X's, so here you should have had 2. Letter C says, what is the difference between these two measurements in inches? So what we have to do there, this is kind of our first actual math of the day. I'm going to use blue. I'm going to write over this and then I'll have to delete it. But what we're doing is we're doing 1 6/8, and we are subtracting, that didn't show up, just looks like part of my line. We are subtracting 7/8 of an inch. Now, the problem here is that we have 6/8. How do you take away 7/8? And that's where we need to regroup. We've done this before. What you know is that this second part of the equation is going to stay the exact same. It's going to stay minus 7/8. What we have to do is we have to regroup that 1. We have to turn that back into a fraction. Now if it's bigger than 1, we take 1 away. But here we just have 1. So if we were to write 1 as a fraction over 8, what would that be? You fill that in. It would be 8. So this 1 was like having 8/8. We also have 6/8. So how many eighths would that be altogether? 8/8 and 6/8 would be 14/8. My 1 kind of got into my 4. That's terrible. Here, let's try that again. 14/8. So what the problem becomes then is, for this is 14/8 minus 7/8. When we add or subtract fractions, we know that the denominator does not change. So our denominators are going to be eighths all the way through. It's simply 14 minus 7. Go ahead and figure that out, write your answer in. And of course, we would know that 7 plus 7 is 14, so 14 minus 7 is 7. Your answer for letter C here should have been 7/8. Okay, so now we're looking at problem 3. It says, how many insects are longer than 7/8 inch and shorter than 1 6/8 inch? So I'm going to erase our work here real quick. And it says larger than 7/8. Does that mean we include 7/8 or don't include 7/8? You shouldn't include 7/8 because 7/8 is 7/8. It's got to be bigger, so it's got to be to that side of the line. And smaller than 1 6/8. Then we're not going to include 1 6/8 because it has to be smaller. If we included that, it would be how many are larger than 7/8 of an inch or up to 1 6/8 inch, or they'd phrase it differently. So the first thing we got to do is see how many X's now are bigger than 7/8 but smaller than 1 6/8. Because each X represents an insect. and how many would you have? Go ahead and write that in. 1, 2, 3. You would have 3 insects that are that size. They want to know the combined length of those. So it's actually not so bad to do that. If you look at it, we've got one insect that's 1 inch long, plus another insect that's 1 2/8 inches long, and a third insect that is 1 4/8 inches long. And then all you got to do is add that up. This one's pretty easy to add because you don't have to regroup the fraction. You can just add the whole numbers, then add the fraction, and you should get your answer. So go ahead and do that. Write your answer in here. And if you're ready now, here we go. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. I know my denominator is going to be ace because when I add fractions or subtract them, my denominator doesn't change. 2 plus 4 is 6. So your answer for their combined length is 3 and 6/8. All right, moving on to number 4. How many insects, oh, I better erase my work. If you need the work, pause me. That didn't work. There we go. How many insects are longer than 3/8 of an inch and shorter than 7/8 of an inch? So again, we're not including the 3/8 or the 7/8. Bigger than 7/8, bigger than 3/8, smaller than 7/8. So when you look at that, you got to count how many x's are in there. That's what goes in here. They want to know the combined length of those. That's what goes here. That's the same thing we did. It's just adding the lengths of those. So first I'll figure out how many insects. 1, 2, 3, 4. So for letter A in problem 4, you should have 4 insects. Now, this time we've got 2, when we're doing this, when we're setting it up, we got 2 that are 5/8. So it's 5/8 plus 5/8 plus, you finish the equation. We're using those 4 x's. Finish the equation. 5/8 plus 5/8 plus 6/8 plus 6/8 equals. Now we're going to get an improper fraction. You're going to need to simplify that and make it into a mixed number, a whole number and a fraction where the numerator is smaller than the denominator. We do that by dividing. But the first step is just to add these. So go ahead and add those. Again, you know that your denominator is going to be 8. 5 plus 5 is 10. 6 plus 6 is 12. 10 plus 12 is 22. And you end up with 22/8. Everybody following so far? If you didn't, rewind, read, drop me an email, do whatever you got to do, get a hold of me if this doesn't make sense. So what we really need to remember is the 22/8 because we have to now divide 22 divided by 8. And really what we're thinking is, how many 8s can I count by and get close to 22 without going over? So you got to know your 8 facts. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2, and so on. Try to do this division problem on your own. Hit pause, and then hit play, and check your work with mine. If you see that you made a mistake, fix that mistake and then try and finish the problem. So something times 8 gets me close without going over. I would have used 2 because 8 times 2 is 16 when we subtract. Now this works because the number that I'm subtracting is smaller than 22. 8 times 2 is 16. If I would have done 8 times 3, I'd have 24, and that's too big. Can't be bigger than the number that I'm dividing. Alright, so I'm going to use a different marker here so you can see I can't do 2 minus 6, so I have to cross out the 20 and make it 10. This becomes 12. 12 minus 6 is 6. And 1 minus 1 is 0. Here's your whole number, 2. Numerator, 6. Denominator, 8. So your answer for letter B is 2 and 6/8. All right. Continuing on, we're going to look at number 5 here. Number 5 says, what is the measure of the longest insect? So the longest insect, these are the lengths down here. The longest one was 1 6/8. So your answer here should have been 1 6. Oh, that is not very clear. I'll try writing that again. 1 6/8. Okay, how many insects have that measure? How many insects were 1 6/8 long? You should write down 3. You could have done that before me. So what's the combined length of those? We're going to add those up. 1 6/8 plus 1 6/8 plus 1 6/8. Okay, if we do that, we're going to end up with 1, 2, 3, number 8, 6, 12, 18. So you could say that it's 3 18/8 inches long, but we know that that doesn't really make sense. So I'm going to write my 3 18/8 here, so I don't lose that. And what we need to do is take this 18/8 and divide. It's the same process. How many 8s can go into 16 without going over? Go ahead and try this. Again, it's 2. 8 times 2 is 16, and you subtract. 8 minus 6 is 2. 10 minus 10 is 0. Whole number is 2. Numerator, also a 2. And denominator, an 8. So that's what that 18/8 is. So what this problem actually is 3 plus 2 and 2/8. That's your answer for right here. Which of course 3 plus 2 is 5. And then you'd still have the 2/8. Okay. I think that's probably where we're going to leave off there because I want to go over your math boxes for today. And for that, I can make this a little bigger. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Let's try it again. There we go. All right. Move over to your math boxes. These are on. Oop, not what I want. Not what I want. I want this. I want this. Oh, okay. We finally made it. So your math boxes are on page 268. Number 1 states, the zoo has statues of animals on display. 3 bear statues weighing 35, 47, and 62 kilograms, and 3 gorilla statues weighing 68, 82, and 91 kilograms. How many more grams do the gorilla statues weigh than the bear statues? So if it were me, what I would do first is I'd add up all these kilograms. And I'd do the same for the gorillas. And I know that the gorilla statues weigh more than the bear statues. So once I've added those together, I would take the red, which is the gorillas, and I'd subtract the blue, which in this case is the bears. And that'll get you a number of kilograms. Now, the answers down here are in grams. So you're going to have to take those kilograms and multiply it by 1,000 because every kilogram is 1,000 grams. Which is actually super easy because you just take how many kilograms there are and add your 3 zeros to the end. And it says circle the best answer. There's only one answer this time. Alright, we've done something like box 2 before, so I'm going to do 2 of them for you, as an example, n needs to be multiplied by 3. So that's like taking 153 times 3. If I do that, it's not too bad. 3 times, don't forget to put your zeros. Something that I saw the other day is we're not thinking about our zeros. This is 3, really what 153 is 100 plus 50 plus 3. So you have to take 3 times each of those. So if you look at the 100, there's going to be 2 zeros. 3 times 1 is 3. With the 50, there's going to be 1 0. 3 times 5 is 15. And then 3 times 3 is 9. 0, 0, 9, 0 and 5, 3 and 1. I get 459. So now, pretty simple. If they give you the n, multiply it by 3. But this one, if you're going back this way, you need to divide by 3. So this one is actually 1,035 divided by 3. And again, looking at your guys' work that some of you have handed in, the division's a little tricky for you. So try and follow along. Maybe you could work through these two with me. I look at the first number they give me. The first number they give me is the 1 in the thousands place. But I'm just going to think about it like a 1. How many 3's can go into 1? You can't. 3 is bigger than 1. So we're going to look at, instead, the 10. And we're thinking, what times 3 gets me close to 10 without going over? And that's 3. 3 times 3 is 9. It's got to go in my ones place because it's not, we're viewing this like it's the 10s and the 1s. And 3 times 3 would be 9. That's just 1s. I don't have any 10s. I put my zeros at the end. Now check this. This is why it makes sense. 3 times 3 is 9, but 3 times 300 is 900. And I subtract. 5 minus 0 is 5. 3 minus 0 is 3. And 10 minus 9 is 1. See, that got me a big jump. Now it's going to be kind of the same thing, but this time, instead of looking at the 1, we're going to look at the 13. And we're thinking, what times 3 gets me close to 13? Let's count by 3's. 3, 6, 9, 12. That's 4 3's. 3 times 4 is 12. Because it's a 2-digit number, I've got to write it as a 2-digit number below my 13. I add a 0 on the inside, I add a 0 on the outside. 5 minus 0 is 5, and 3 minus 2 is 1. Now it becomes 15 divided by 3, and we're thinking, how many 3's can go into 15? You can count by 3's. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. It's 5. 3 times 5 is 15, and I subtract and I get 0. Your answer is on the outside. 300 plus 40 is 340. 5 is 345. So on this one, 345. What I want you to do is these two. If you want to do the last one, feel free. It's not required. Okay, moving on. At the movies, Naomi and Paulina shared one bag of popcorn and ate it all. Paulina ate 2/5 of the bag of popcorn. How much did Naomi eat? Okay, well, a whole thing, if we're dealing with fifths, a whole would be 5/5. We know that Paulina ate 2/5. So you've got to figure out what's missing. And there's a couple different ways that you can do it. I'm not going to go into that. You know what the whole is. The whole would be 5/5 of a bag of popcorn. On this one, we're solving 358 divided by 4. And then I think it would also be a good idea to do this other one. There are 587 pencil sharpeners to be placed in a box that holds 8 pencil sharpeners per box. How many boxes are needed? That's just a division problem. It's 587 divided by 8. And what I want you to do with that is you're going to have to interpret what to do with the remainder. There's going to be a remainder. Do you report it as a fraction? Do you ignore it? Or do you round up because you'll need another box? So that's what you have to decide. This one is just explaining what you did with it. Are you reporting it as a fraction? Are you ignoring it? Are you rounding it up to the next box because you need an extra one? Alright, so that's what we got for today for an assignment. I'll post a review of this tomorrow on our Flex Day. Alright guys, take care.